value. And it's intended to be a representative response where ideally half of patients would be above and half would be below. So it's intended to be the typical response. It typically is not the mean because the distribution is not a normal distribution, a technical detail.
Now, I didn't understand hardly anything you said the last 2 days, but I do understand mean. Isn't that average?
Yes, the mean is the average.
All right, now when we talk about median, that's half above and half below.
Median would be a better term.
Okay, so you mean median.
The median would be the more representative term.
Okay. Now, in this case, you were asked to do a little something different, though, weren't you?
I don't understand the question.
Well, you weren't given dosage in all of your simulations and asked to determine concentration. You were given concentration in some of these simulations and asked to determine dosage.
That's correct. There are no records of dose.
Now, your computer models that you... and there are computer programs that will do that, right?
Do what?
If you're given a concentration, just spit out all the possible scenarios of dosages?
Not that I know of.
You mean there's no computer program that will give us every possible dosage scenario for a concentration, a femoral blood concentration?
There would be an infinite number of possible dosage combinations. I don't understand how a computer program would do that.
Well, that's why you explained it.
Is that a question?
Yes. You explained it correctly? Is that right?
I think so.
All right. But you didn't stop there in this case. You also, in front of this jury, described the method of dosing, right?
Please explain what you mean by method.
Well, you stood in front of the jury, and what you did is you took a bottle, propofol bottle, and you propped it in an IV bag, right?
Yes.
And you said that you had never seen that done before.
That's correct.
And that would be the method by which this so-called infusion, this supposed infusion, would have been provided to Michael Jackson, you said, right?
That's correct.
So that's a method of providing that infusion, right?
That would be a method of
Is
providing...
that pharmacokinetics?
No, that's just anesthesia.
Well, actually, it's investigation, isn't it? Let's go. Let me rephrase the question. You stood in front of this jury. Can I see your box of stuff from yesterday? Do you have that readily available? Is this been marked? You stood in front of the jury with this bag, right?
That's correct.
And you stood in front of the jury with one of these bottles.
That's correct.
Right. And you propped up one of these bottles in this bag, right?
Correct.
And you said, that's what I think happened.
That's correct.
Isn't that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, that's correct.
That's a bold claim, isn't it? Isn't that a bold claim?
It's an honest statement. It's what I think happened.
Well, actually, what you said was you couldn't conceive of even one piece of evidence that would contradict that claim.
I'm not aware of any.
All right, let's talk about that claim. First of all, when you showed the jury, set up for the jury, you used 2 IV lines. Is that right?
That is correct.
Neither one of those IV lines that you used were found at the scene. You know that.
That is correct.
One of them was brought from you, I guess from New York, from Columbia University. So.
I tried to purchase... Yes, that is correct.
And that particular IV line you attached to a saline bag. Is that right? In
that
your
is
demonstration?
Correct.
That IV line, there's no evidence that anybody has ever purchased that IV line except you, in this case, right?
Anybody who's ever purchased that IV line except me? I don't I mean, that IV line has been purchased by thousands of people.
Is there any particular reason why you chose that IV line? Can you hear me okay? I know I'm getting down. Okay. Is there any particular reason why you brought that one IV line to show the jury?
Yes. There is a reason.
All right, so tell us.
I contacted Seacoast Medical a couple days before I came out about buying the other line, and they said that it had to be drop shipped and it would take 2 to 3 weeks. And I didn't have 2 to 3 weeks, so I brought the line that I brought.
This is the line you brought.
Yes. Seacoast Medical was unable to ship me the other line in time for the trial.
Courtesy of Columbia.
Correct.
Got it. But other than courtesy of Columbia, you have no information that Dr. Murray ever purchased that IV?
No, he purchased the Excel part 007774.
Did you have occasion to investigate any other source of supply for that IV line?
For the Excel 007774?
Yes.
I looked at other sites,
Go ahead.
and I did not find other sites that were available, but I'd be delighted to know if you have one here. I'd be delighted to examine it.
Yeah, I got it from Seacoast.
Excellent.
Yeah. So it's possible to get this line.
Oh yes, it was a drop ship issue. There was a 2 weeks delay. You probably had the same.
In fact, did you know that the prosecution had one?
No.
So is counsel referring to an evidence, I assume?
I don't know.
No, it's not an evidence.
Well, then, motion to strike, counsel's testifying.
Sustained. It assumes facts, not evidence. That last answer is stricken. Disregard.
Can I?
You can follow up. Sure.
I'm going to show you what I marked WW.
Whiskey, WW.
What I'm doing right now, doctors, I'm digging into this box to try to find an Excel IV line so you can compare it. Do I have to do that, or can you identify it?
Well, I do have a picture of it on my laptop. May I look at the picture? Sure, happy to. This has got some blood on it and stuff. Is this what's the source of this?
It's milk.
Well, what's the brown stuff?
It's not blood.
Okay, that's
Can you
fine.
please?
Be handed something that's sort of discolored.
People see 20 to fix the picture. Be quicker.
Well, no, Mr. Chernoff can use what he wants to use. If Dr. Shafer wants to look at
Dr. Shafer, would you prefer see?
Hello? Excuse me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Please.
Yeah.
I was saying, if Dr. Shafer wants to reference a picture, he can, but Mr. Chernoff can go ahead using the exhibit. Now, Mr. Chernoff.
Okay, thank you, Judge. Can I approach you real quick? I'm going to take this from you for just a second. I want to show you. This does have stuff in it that you used it.
That's okay.
Let me show you. Is this thing marked? Okay. I have to mark it.
Okay. The exhibit that was utilized yesterday for demonstrative purposes was not marked. You want that marked
XX? Is that right?
X-ray, yes.
It's
tubing.
It's an IV setup, is what it would be called.
IV setup, XX.
May I approach, Judge?
Yes.
Let me show you. You ready? Let me show you XX. This is the IV setup that you. Is that the IV setup that you used yesterday to show the
Yes, it is.
infusion of?
Wait, please. We have a partial question. Re-ask it, Mr. Chairman.
Is that the IV setup you used yesterday in front of the jury to show the infusion of propofol?
Yes, it is.
What you did. Put this here, is that right? What you did is you set this up in front of the jury, right?
Correct.
and you said this line is the line I think Dr. Murray used, I got it right, to infuse propofol.
Correct.
And then you also further demonstrate to the jury how it would be impossible for Dr. Murray to have injected the propofol, he said, without a saline wash. Remember that conversation? Remember you injected in front of the jury and it went down the tube and it didn't reach, and you said that shows it's impossible. Remember that?
Objection, I don't know, the word impossible is used.
I don't believe.
Well, what did you say?
Wait a minute. The objection is sustained. Misstates the evidence. You may re-ask. Go ahead, Mr. Chernoff.
You can, in your own words, just explain what your demonstration was all about.
That tubing that you were just holding was used to infuse the propofol from the propofol bottle. And we know that the Excel set was not used...
Let me stop you for a second, Shafer. Dr. Shafer, you're talking about from the propofol bottle yesterday? Is that what you're saying? Okay. Go ahead then. I'm sorry.
We know that the Excel set was not used because there's no air vent. Without an air vent, the Excel set would not remove the propofol from the bottle. That's how we know the Excel set was not used.
Now,
May I correct how you stated my testimony earlier?
no, I'm going to ask you a question.
Okay.
This particular IV line that you showed to the jury, right? I'm looking at...
Yes, the Braun infusion set.
And I'm going to tell you that it is identified as XX.
Okay.
This, and by the way, show us real quick where the venting is on this.
The vent is
If you could step just a little bit back, Mr. Chernoff, so the juror's view is not obscured.
This is the vent right here. And you'll recall that it did not run until I opened the vent so that the air could come in.
So you would agree with me then, or your testimony is that without a vented line, you're not going to be able to infuse from a bottle, right?
Correct.
And this particular line, which is marked as XX,
Yes.
the only reason that you brought it to show the jury, the only possible reason you had evidence that it was used was that you had a Seacoast medical record that a bunch of these were purchased in June. Is that right?
That is wrong.
You had other evidence that that line was used, that line was at the scene?
No, you've misstated the evidence.
Okay. Well, did you have other evidence that that line was at the scene?
The evidence you stated was not correct.
Okay. Well, was it purchased in July, August, May? Do you have the records?
I have the records, and I'll refer to them exactly.
Dr. Shafer's doing something on his laptop.
Give me one moment if you may.
Anytime.
I'm looking at the notes, which are in evidence, from Seacoast Medical. And what I see on the notes from Seacoast Medical is that on the 17th of March, there is a note that says, that probably is the 25th of March, basically saying mostly M/S, including safe site 105778, which is that piece, on the 17th of March, which I'll enter as a separate drop ship for Dr. Murray. The credit card was then declined on 3/26. And on 4/13, Connie called and says, "Doctor needs supplies but wants to know if we can ship to a California residential address based on the history here. I see this as another red flag," and told her we'd rather not. So this is, as far as I can tell from the notes from Seacoast Medical, the set that I brought is a set that Dr. Murray requested be drop shipped to his